Then there was some research done. I can't remember which publication it was in, where they actually showed who was getting paid where on what networks. And these white girls, I mean, it was some girl, some young woman actress on a cable show, like some obscure cable network, getting $500,000 an episode. And we're on major network, the #1 show, killing the game. I didn't get that. By the time it was said and done, I never got to 500,000. And it lasted 6 seasons.
So, Taraji, let me just start by asking you something that I hope will help clear up a mystery that me and my friends are totally obsessed about, okay? Related to one of your movies, all right? Okay. Every time it comes on, literally in the group chat, everybody's like, we got to figure out, how did this happen? Acrimony. I need to know, how did she get on the yacht? How did she get back on the boat with Robert and old girl? How did this happen?
If there is a will, there is a way. I guess she got there before they pushed off.
Because we love the movie, and because one of my girls has seen it, and we actually nicknamed her Acrimony because she has a little bit of a temper, so we just mess with her, be like, all right, Acrimony, right? And then when everybody in the chat has seen the movie, we're like, y'all, but how did she get back on the boat though? And we just have been trying to figure this out. So,
back on the boat when he knocks me off?
Yeah, well, remember, because if I'm not mistaken, it has been a few months since I've seen it. So they're living their best life, like Robert and old girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last that we see of your character, she's like in the house, and
they won't let her out. Yeah. Well,
right. So how did she get to the yacht?
Okay, remember that was in the daytime.
Right.
And the boat is at night. So I guess there was time enough, because remember the sister went to the room and there was a hole in the window where she got out. It was still daytime out.
Right.
Remember there was a rip in the screen in the window.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's how she got out.
Yeah, she went to, because the husbands were in the back playing cards, making sure she didn't leave the house. They had her car blocked in the front.
Yep.
And they were on the porch. So then when the sisters came in to check on her, they looked in the bedroom and there was a slit in the window.
Yeah, we knew.
Daytime. So she had time to get to the boat, stow away, hide until.
And so all of that. Okay. Now the mystery is solved, because we're like, yo, man, she must have did some Spider-Man shit. I don't know what happened. How she got on this yacht. But thank you for clearing that up, because it's been really bothering us for a while. So we make jokes about it all the time.
I remember is because I saw it the other day. It was on the other day, and I was like, "Oh, Acrimony's on. I'll watch it. She's crazy."
Now, how often do you do that? Do you watch the movies that you've been in?
It depends. I love Us. So I keep my channel when I'm in my salon playing around with hair and stuff. It's like a real salon. I keep it on BET. It's just on BET all day, all night. So it's like, it'll be noise in the background. I don't stop and watch it, but there's certain things I will watch. Like Talk to Me. I just feel like we got just such a bum deal on that one. But I will watch that one. Baby Boy, occasionally I'll watch. I mean, because it's like, wow, you've grown as an artist since then. But I don't sit around and watch myself. Like, it has to be like coming on.
Like organically. It has
on, and I'm channel surfing. It's like, well, I can't find anything else. Oh, Hidden Figures on. I'll watch it,
Well, I don't like to watch myself either. In fact, I hate the sound of my own voice. And so I think a lot of people probably that are in either media or entertainment, they probably feel that way. But nevertheless, I'm glad you brought up Baby Boy, because, for a lot of people, especially a lot of us, still run around here calling you Yvette. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you think about that movie and you look back and you just noted the word that you just used was the word growth. Sometimes I think ignorance can be helpful, because when you do great things, sometimes you're too naive to know you shouldn't be doing the things that you're doing, and like in the fashion that you're doing it. So as you're going through that movie and that experience, I mean, were you cognizant of the fact that you were really putting in a performance that would be kind of eye-opening for people who didn't know who you were, and groundbreaking in a lot of ways?
I kind of knew, but because what people was telling me, oh, you know, John Singleton, he creates stars, and you know, this movie is gonna be it, and it's gonna do that. But I'm a grounded person, and I don't really like to count my chickens, my eggs before they hatch. So I heard them, but I was like, I don't know, it just didn't feel in my spirit like this was the one that was gonna catapult me. I don't know. I just knew deep down that as a Black woman, it would be a little difficult. What I did know deep down, without even really understanding the industry at that point, was that Tyrese would have a better shot at working. And look, he went on and booked 2 franchise movies back to back, Transformers and the one that's still, what, they on number 13 now?
Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I've yet to book a franchise movie.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that, you know?
It's been a minute, but that is something that you've been very vocal about. Is pay equity. It was you talked about an experience in your book, Around the Way Girl, which you probably can't see it, but it's like right there in my library. But you know, you talked about the Benjamin Buttons experience that you had, finding out that you were making 2% of what Brad Pitt was making. And you had to pay for your own travel, right? Or your own accommodations once you were there shooting in New Orleans, correct?
Let me tell you how it works. So they give you an allowance, right? They give you an allowance to find yourself somewhere to live. At the time, I didn't have a team to do all of that for me. You know, now I have a team. I don't have to deal with that. They make sure I get where I want to live, blah, blah, blah. But at the time, I wasn't where I am today. And so they gave me money to look for a place to live, but you got to remember they only paid me $150,000. And let me break this down for you, because I remember people, well, $150, that's a lot of money. Let me break it down. 150 taxed is 50% of that. Okay, so 150, 50% of that is what, 75?
Yep.
And then I got to pay another 30% of that to my team. So then what's left? The next thing I have to pay is for my son's school at the time, which was $30,000. So you see, that was not enough money to last me throughout the year. I didn't get the whole $150,000 like you think up front. That was what I got. After taxes is not $150,000. And so when it came time for me to do the math, I was like, do I take this whatever money they gave me for my allowance to find somewhere to live and live lavishly in New Orleans, or do I pocket that money because I need it and I'm gonna go live in the damn embassy suites for these 3 months or whatever, you know? And because I'm the type of artist I am, I had to swallow my pride. I really had to swallow my pride, because that is such an injustice. And all we were asking for was $500,000. That's all we were asking for.
What does the fight for pay equity look like for Black actresses now?
It's still a fight. You know, it's still a fight. Even me coming off of this show that a Black show hasn't done this since Cosby Show, Empire. And I still have to fight. I'm like, but people, you saw what those numbers did, and you're questioning what? Then there was some research done. I can't remember which publication it was in, where they actually showed who was getting paid where on what networks. And these white girls, I mean, it was some young woman actress on a cable show, like some obscure cable network, getting $500,000 an episode. And we're on major network, the #1 show, killing the game. I didn't get that. By the time it was said and done, I never got to $500,000. And it lasted 6 seasons. Like, you know, so it's just stuff like that is like, well, I mean, like Viola, she's like, okay, well, I did this. I went out and got this award, that award, that award, that award. What else do I have to do? You know what I'm saying? And it just plays into, when you're Black, you have to be 2 times, 3 times as better as your white counterpart to even be recognized as on the level. It's crazy. It's crazy. I know that I am about $100 million behind my white counterparts. And I've been in the game for like over 20 years. I'm very grateful for my position. And I know what my artistry and how important art is and how important and how people in the art saved my life, you know? So I try not to get caught up in that kind of, because a lot of times that's ego. So I just have to put my blinders back on and stay focused on my path and what I talk to my God about and what I wanted to accomplish on this journey. And I think I'm doing a great job. I think I'm, you know, I don't try to compare myself to other people. I big up people when they make it and do, because when one makes it, we all make it. That's how I feel. I don't compete. I love to see everybody win, you know, and I just try to stay in my lane. But it just hurts when I don't get my credit when I should. Mm-hmm. They try to go, they talk all around me, you know, and I think it's because I've always been edgy since the beginning, since I came on the scene, and whatever that is, I don't know, I'm just who I am. But they have these titles, and I noticed, you know, my manager at the time would always tell me, they said, you're too edgy, you're too this. I'm too edgy. Wait, did they not see what I put on film? Like, I can't help who I am, and I'm never going to change who I am. But whatever that character requires, I will serve it to you because I'm a trained actress, you know? But you can't judge me based on how I speak in interviews or, you know, how I walk in the room. That's me. Now, when you yell action, you're getting the character. But I'm not this character 24/7. And just because I'm that girl from around the way, I'm not going to make you, I'm comfortable with who I am. I can't help it if you're uncomfortable with that, but I'm not going to change who I am to make you feel comfortable. That's not fair. And I love Cardi B coming on the scene the way she did. I love Meg Thee Stallion owning her, loving her body, right? I feel like I'm not taking credit for anything, but those young women watched me clearly. They send me their stuff. They, you know, and they're baby. They're young enough to be my children. Literally, I could be their mother. So I know they've watched me. I know they've watched my journey and me be myself, be unapologetically myself. Somebody even tweeted one day, excuse me, Taraji P. Henson ran so Cardi could, Taraji P. walked so Cardi could run. I don't know, something like that. But that's why I see so much of myself in her, and I see so much of myself in Meg, because, you know, I'm just not gonna not be me. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a good fucking person. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know. And I don't know. It just and Jada Pinkett, like, honestly, she was edge. Like, when she came on the scene, she was edge. And I felt, and that's who I identified with. When I saw that, I was like, yes, girl, that's what I'm talking about. Because I saw myself in her. You know what I mean? And I don't know. When I came along, I don't think they quite knew what to do. They didn't understand me. I don't know. That's how I felt. It could be totally a script I'm writing in my head, but I honestly felt like for a while the industry didn't get me, and I would switch it up. And because I knew once I did Baby Boy, because I came from the hood, I was fresh off the boat. I still had a very heavy DC accent. I was like, they're gonna keep sending me this stuff. And they did. I kept getting the ghetto mama, baby girl, round the way. And I was like, they don't realize I've done Shakespeare in the Park. Like, come on. And so I would have to dodge those characters and carve out my lane. And that's what I had to do. That's what my manager said to me at the time. He was like, we got to carve this lane out for you, because at the time there weren't really no edgy characters. There were really, Jada did them all. You know what I mean? Not that that's all she could do. That's not what I'm saying. But I, like, even in Set It Off, you know what I mean? She was the turn up, you know? I just identified with her. Even at Hillman College, I saw myself in her. And I was like, when I go to Hollywood, I'm going to be some spice, because it existed. I had that representation. But until I don't recall it. I mean, I don't want to sit here and drop names and stuff, but I'm just saying I hadn't seen that much spice and grit like that until Jada popped on the scene, you know, and that allowed me to dream and say, hey, there is a place for me in Hollywood, and she's from Baltimore. So, you know,
I was going to say, it must be a DMV thing.
Yeah, right. You know,
Yeah.
we have, you know, where we come from. It's just like, if you come from the streets, you fight. I was never bullied. I love to bring down a bully.
So many nuggets and gems you just dropped in what you just said, and I think a lot of Black women can relate. Want to definitely expand more on that, and also talk to you about peace of mind, and just as much as you are known for what you have done in Hollywood and your illustrious acting career, I think now what you're doing in mental health is just really important. So we're going to take a quick break, come back with more gems, nuggets, wisdom from Taraji P. Henson on Jemele Hill is Unbothered. One thing that's very obvious about you, Taraji, is that you're very self-aware, and you have been very vocal about the fact that you're in therapy. You're a huge mental health advocate. You have a talk show on Facebook Watch that's starting soon that I'm going to ask you about in a moment. And as someone who is currently also in therapy and did not start until into my 40s, it can be very illuminating trying to unpack yourself. So let's start with why you decided to go to therapy.
A lot. I had been pushing through, and that's what we do. We push through, we learn to be strong. And I got to a place where I couldn't push through. It was becoming harder and harder to pull myself out of these dark spells, I like to call them, or holes. Like I could look up and be like, I want to get up, but I don't want to. I don't feel it. I don't have the energy. So when I started having that more and more, that's when I was like, something's off. And clearly, yes, depression and anxiety. And so then I was talking to Gabourey Sidibe about it. And she was like, I understand, blah, blah, blah. And I love her because she's always been very open and honest about her mental health issues and struggles. And so she turned me on to her therapist in Chicago. And I went to her, fell in love. I was like, oh, this woman gets me. It was like a breath of fresh air. And also working on, when you get into a relationship and you talk about marriage, you have to unpack. You have to unpack your trauma, because if not, it's going to show up in that relationship. And so then it became about that, because now I'm in this relationship and we're talking happily ever after. And so now I got to go work on some things, or these issues that we're having, we're going to continue to have. And so that's when I really leaned into therapy. I really leaned into therapy, especially when I was talking about when I was in my relationship. And so, of course, God, everything doesn't work out. It didn't. And it's fine. No one hates each other. It was mutual. We're great. But it made me even want to further continue this journey with my therapist, because I'm learning so much about myself, and I had this epiphany on the show, actually, Peace of Mind with Taraji, the other day. And I was like, we do all of this work for relationships with our significant others. Why don't we put that work in for ourselves? Do you realize the first relationship you have is with yourself? You will run to marriage counseling, all the stuff you got to do with your significant other. When are you going to take that time for yourself? You have to. And then even talking to Gabourey, she was saying how if she wasn't in therapy, she don't even know if she could have allowed this engagement with her fiance. You know how many people can't even be in relationships because they haven't healed their trauma? And it's just as simple as loving yourself and nurturing the relationship with self first. That's first and foremost before you jump off and dive off into trying to create a life with someone else. And I just hate that Black people feel like the strength is in the vibrato or being strong. There is so much strength in vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually where the strength is. That's where you get the strength to come out the hole when you say, you know what, I can't. Just saying it is I don't know how to come out of the hole. That's the strength, because that's what's gonna get you out of the hole. Staying in the hole and doing this, guess where you're gonna be? In the hole. Throw a lifeline. I need help. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to feel. We're humans. We should feel.
Well, all the time, my therapist is always dropping, something where I'm like, because one of the things she told me that stuck with me was that childhood lasts forever. And I was like, ooh, you just really trying to give me something to think about. So for you, what are some of the things that maybe your therapist has said to you that, of course, you feel comfortable sharing about that just always kind of sticks with you, that like really stuck in your craw a little bit?
She told me that I write scripts. I write my own scripts in my head. And so that means if I don't have all of the information, I will run off and write a script. And it'd be wrong. It'd be the wrong narrative. It'd be the wrong story. That ain't even how we started off. You know what I mean? But Taraji done took the reins and took over the writing room. And now she's telling God how it's going to go. Right? When she said that to me and gave me this entire book about it, I was just like, that's what I do. So my thing is breathing, stopping, getting grounded, slowing my brain down, because my brain does this and my brain will wake me up out of a sleep. Oh my God. I could be comatose sleep, tired, dead tired. My brain will kick on in the wee hours and I wake up like this. Bright eyed, bushy tail, like I was never asleep, and my brain goes nuts. So my thing a lot that she tells me to do is breathe, sit down and breathe and do stuff like this to keep myself in the moment. Like if I do this, it makes me go, oh, I feel this. And that drowns out my noise. And deep breaths. When I do this, that keeps my brain from out of the writer's room.
We were talking about Empire a minute ago. Obviously, it's such a huge smash and success. I've read something that you said about its international success, which you seem to be surprised about. Is that the best way to characterize it, that it did so well internationally? Or were other people surprised that it did?
Well, the studio was, and the network. Mm-hmm. Well, because I was told, and I believed this shit that they told me, that Black, doesn't do well overseas. Black content, movies, television, don't really do well overseas. So just focus on domestic because it's really hard to sell. And then I believed it was, well, maybe that's why Black, but then I was like, then social media came about and I signed on to Twitter. And I'm starting to get all these tweets from all over the world. We love you in Brazil. We love you in Nigeria. We love you over here. And then sometimes I would get a language that I couldn't even translate. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, somebody lied. Because people really, I got fan pages in Brazil. I have fan pages, all these different, Greece I've gotten, Ibiza. I'm like, somebody's lying. So then Empire hits. I knew we were going to be domestically, I knew we had it, and because it was nothing like it on television. When I started seeing, and what happened was that overseas fans started streaming it illegally. That's when the studio and everyone was like, oh, hey, we got some money. Hey, what? So then I was like pushing them I was like, send me around, send me over there. We got to go over there and talk to the people. Because remember, they don't know me over there and they don't know anything about me over there and they don't really pay attention to anything I do over there. Remember, that's what I was told. So I get over there and we're at a screening, 1,500 seats, standing room only. And they thought Lee was there alone. They got to the cookie questions and Lee said, well, I don't know. Why don't you ask her? She's here. Before he could get my entire name out, the entire room stood up. And this is a French speaking audience. When I tell you, I got on that stage and did the ugliest face cry. I couldn't even pull it together. I really couldn't, because the love was like, we've been waiting for you. Then I'm great, get emotional. Then I go outside of the venue. Every walk of life, these are French citizens, we can't even communicate because they're speaking French to me, but they have they have jackets of my movies. They had not easily broken. I said, then I go to
glad.
Japan. I mean, we see Cookie and Lucius with the Russian hat on in a Russian publication. We went to Japan, they lost their shit. They lost it in Japan. And I'm like, so tell me again why my movies don't do well overseas. Is it because you're not promoting them and doing your job? Is that what it is? Because that's what you have to do. You have to promote it. You have to make noise like you do here in the States. Same formula over there. Every big movie that I've ever been in has never taken me overseas. I never thought that I would ever get to overseas. And who thought television would take me? That's something movie stars do.
Now, Taraji, you were already pretty known before Empire came out, but how did the success of the show sort of change how you were, recognized? I mean, I joked about how people, I'm sure, still call you Yvette, but once you became, Cookie, an iconic television character, how did that change just how people perceived you, your level of fame, and just walking around?
That's when my life that was pretty much kind of normal before. Like I could go to stores unrecognizable, Cookie made me very popular. Cookie made me like a pop star. And I'm a very private person. Like I really like going to buy my own produce. I like picking out my own Christmas trees. I like shopping. I like taking myself on lunches by myself. I love shopping by myself. Those are the things I can't really do anymore without being even with the mask. It's crazy. I was masked all the way up. This woman said to me, she leaned over, she said, "Your eyebrows are famous."
But she's right though. She is 100% right. I know those brows anywhere.
Good God Almighty. I was like, dang, now I have to wear it. But I have even been in places, and this is not even Black people recognizing me. I was literally the kid on South Park that wears that coat, the hood like this. That's how I'm in the airport. This girl walked past me, looked in that little hole and said, "That's Taraji P. Henson." And I think she was like Filipino. But that's the thing. If they are fans, they know your profile. They know your voice. So a lot of times I'll go out in public, I don't talk. And I'm a people person. Like, I can't help it. I remember one time I was on a plane. This is when we had to start hiring security to travel with me. So I'm on the plane and I can't help myself. I'm a Southern girl at heart. This man needed to put something up in the bin and my shit was in the way. So I was like, "Oh, you can move it." And then he looked at me and I was like, and he reached over and backhanded me and was like, "Cookie." I said, "Ow, ow. You can't hit me, sir. That hurts." Right? So after that, I was like, because see, I'm a pop off. And if he had caught me, I could have been carted off the plane for whooping his ass. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. That's why I need security, because I'm in therapy and I'm dealing with all of this rage that I have. It's real, but I deal with it. That's why I'm in therapy. But that's why a lot of times celebrities, it's not about a lot of times security protecting us from people. Sometimes it's security protecting us from y'all. Because they forget we human. You understand what I mean by that?
I do. And especially when you play such a bombastic character, they start thinking you're the character.
Oh, I have been hugged up, grabbed. Girl, I'm like, don't hit me. You might get hit back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I know I have that kind of effect on people because of the characters that I portray. Yvette, round the way girl, yeah, it's time to put on some prosthetics and play some other kind of characters.
Your problem is that you're too good. That's the problem, is that you sell the role too well to the point where we're like, oh, okay. So that people.
I know, because at the Acrimony, I had been called all kinds of crazy. It was like, you do realize I'm just acting, right?
Like I said, it's too well. I know the way, because of everything we're going through now in the country, the way that Empire ended was kind of made it probably more awkward. to some degree, but how did you, now that, you know, you've had some time to reflect and think about it, how did you feel about the show ending? And I realize there's a new beginning kind of on the way with your first look deal, but just about that part of that chapter kind of closing.
It was sad. I mean, I was very depressed when that pandemic happened, because we were torn whether to finish, but then there was a studio, a stage right up the block from us. It was all in the news that a couple of people had tested COVID positive. And, you know, we used extras, and we had like big performances where we had to use like 200 extras, and we just didn't feel safe. And, you know, we used the same extras, you know, in those different stages. So we shut it down, and I stayed in Chicago because I was like, okay, let's just wait. But then the wait got so long, and they were like, we just have to wrap up the show. It was sad because, you know, that's a legacy. We created something really iconic, and we did become a family. And the fact that we didn't get our due, we didn't get to end it the way we didn't give that family the proper ending. We did the best we could, but we didn't give that legacy the proper ending. I didn't get to say goodbye to my castmates and crew that we had become family. That's 6 years of being with these people, you know, spending most of your life and hours on set with these people. You become family. And it was just sad. I slipped into a little depression when I first got back to LA, because it was so abrupt and just weird. And I just felt like, dang, why couldn't we just finish on a good note, you know? It was hard.
You know, you mentioned your foundation, which you named after your late father. What does it mean for you that you have something that you have been able to establish in his honor? Like, what does that foundation mean to you to have that?
I feel like I have purpose in life. It's not just being cute and knocking a performance in front of the camera out the ballpark. It's I have purpose. I mean, even though I know I didn't just do stuff to be cute in the movie star in front of the camera, I understand the purpose of art. I really do, on a deep, deep level. Because like I said, art saved my life, got me out the hood, and look at me now, you know? And so I know that how important it is. But after a while, I was like, this is not enough. This is not enough. I need people to heal. I don't know. I just need something. I need to have some other kind of purpose besides just acting. Like, and I remember people kept asking me, do you have a charity? Do you have a charity? I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm not just going to create one just to have one. Like, it has to be something that I'm passionate about. And then that's when, you know, it was time for me and my son to seek therapy and me to get therapy. And then when I couldn't find a therapist that looked like me, and I was having issues with finding therapy or a therapist, you know, that's when I opened up the dialogue with my best friend, and she was like, yeah, it's hard to find us. And that's when it dawned on me, we don't talk about it at home. Our kids don't even know to aspire to be therapists or psychologists, or, you know, if you don't come from a family of doctors, then you won't know, you know. And so I was like, we have to do something about it because our children are suffering. We started doing research, and the one that caught me and takes my breath away every time is the statistics about the babies dying by suicide, and how those numbers have jumped 50%. I mean, the things that I'm learning, Black women are 50% more to be bulimic than white women. Did you know that? Did you know
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Did you know that Black teens cut themselves as well? Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Did not know that. So when I started fighting, because this is what was alarming to me. So at the time, my friend Tracy was working in the school district, and she said, girl, I go in the bathroom and these babies are cutting themselves. I said, what? I just assumed white kids, because she worked at a performing arts school. So I just assumed white kids. And I was like, and she kept saying, the way she was saying it, she was taking it on. And I was like, wait a minute. Who are these kids, Black? And she was like, yes. And I was like, then we did that research, and that dying by suicide, I felt compelled to do something. As a mother, I couldn't sit with that statistic and normalize it. It was like when I was a substitute teacher in Crenshaw, and these babies literally coming from traumatic experiences are expected to go to school and learn. And they are pointing out bullet holes in the school, bullets in the wall from a shootout the night before. Miss Henson, look, it was a shootout. They laughing. This is not normal. Our children are walking around traumatized and normalizing it. That bothered me. That when I was a substitute teacher, that experience I had at that school in Crenshaw stuck with me to this day, even throughout all my success, because I was a substitute teacher right before Baby Boy. Then I booked Baby Boy and then I started working. That stuck with me throughout my entire career. Do you understand how that affected me when I got assigned to a class, special ed, because I signed up for special ed. But I'm thinking wheelchair bound, can't eat, can't walk, can't talk, special ed. These room full of Black boys, special ed. They came in walking, talking, nothing wrong. Trying to do work. I can't do that. I'm special ed. Oh, I see what's going on. Y'all slapping labels on our babies and they're believing it. And so they don't even expect to learn because they can't. They're special ed. Oh, I'm sitting in the room. This is the pipeline straight to prison. That stuck with me. I was sitting in it. And I often think about those young men and I wonder who made it out. Did anybody go to prison? Like, that bothered me. One kid was found, got arrested for stealing food from a 7-Eleven. Not money, not knocking a clerk over the head and trying to get behind the register. Food. What does that tell you? Nobody's at home with this baby. He's hungry. He's just trying to eat. But our kids get locked up and chastised and put in jail and juvie when we have clinicians and therapists in schools who can identify trauma. Come here, let's work this out. You didn't eat, let's get you some food. See, we don't have that kind of support for our children in the hood, right? So that was a huge part of what we wanted to do and change we wanted to see in the school system for our children when we had schools. Remember those days? But there's so much work to unpack. So many people, like half of the percentage of the prison population are people with mental illness issues. They don't belong in cages. They will never heal. That's the worst thing you can do to somebody suffering from bipolarism, schizophrenia, or any kind of mental illness and put them in a fucking cage. There's no rehabilitation in that. So we're getting the raw end of this too. We have trust issues because Black people are more prone to be diagnosed with schizophrenia than the white person. And whatever's the worst of the end of the deal, we're going to get. And schizophrenia, in the pecking order is like the worst of the mental health thingy. So, the stigma around it. So of course that belongs to us, And so we have trust issues because we get heavily medicated for things that maybe we shouldn't even be medicated for. But that's because if the doctor is not culturally competent, that's what they're going to do. You're angry. Well, bitch, are you on social media?
Like, look around.
Look around.
Yeah.
Got a lot to be angry about.
Yeah.
I can't afford therapy. And I can't afford therapy. I can't.
Mm-hmm. You said that about how, a few minutes ago about how one of the things you're dealing with is trying to channel or understand or unpack your rage. Where do you think some of your rage comes from?
Being a Black woman. I watched my mom get robbed twice. Living in the hood, watching things happen to my dad, knowing that a lot of that stuff is from society, watch him going off to a war, coming back, not in his right mind, having issues in the government, not taking care of him. Why is my fucking father homeless when he fought for this country? Like, a lot to be enraged about.
Yeah.
But I think the rage comes from, and I'm still working on it with my therapist, but it comes from several places. But, it dawned on me in a session, that the rage I had from her getting robbed and not being able to help her. But I was so, as a kid, I didn't know how to feel because I saw my mother being strong, but deep down inside, this little girl knew something wasn't right. Like, she wouldn't cry in front of me, even though I saw her from afar pulling plugs of her hair out because that's how hard he was pulling her hair. But she was like, I'm fine. Like, in front of me, she was fine. And what she realized, I don't think what she realized is that that was instilling fight in me, because I wasn't scared to go outside. I was like, I wish a nigga would.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of how we all are, right? That's how we all grow up.
No, once you see once you experience the trauma, it either crumbles you or make you a fighter. And so I think all of the trauma and the things that I've been through in my life, I just didn't succumb to them. It just gave me more fight, made me not scared, like fearless. I mean, if I'm gonna die for something I believe in. You know?
I don't know if you have this experience sometimes when you're in therapy, that you'll repeat or say something that happened from childhood that once you say it out loud, it was so normal to you when you were going through it. And you're like, that was real fucked up. What happened? Now that I think about it, I have this moment all the time. I'm like, yeah, it probably really wasn't normal to be ducking in your bedroom from gunshots. And I was like, damn, at the time, it just seemed so normal. And it's not till you get later in life and you realize, yo, that was real fucked up.
That was great. Like, I remember one time we was in the family room in my dad's house in Southeast. You know, in the city, you got alleys. I don't know what was going on in this alley, but they got the busting off. We all hit the floor. My little sister was a baby until we grabbed her, hit the floor. It stopped. We was like, oh my God, that was a shoot off. Damn, turn the TV back up. What?
Didn't even register.
Because it's just what you do.
Yeah.
You brace yourself. You wait for oh, Lord, no! If it ain't no scream, nobody got hit. It was just gunshot, you know? Brace yourself. Oh, ain't nobody died. All right, turn the TV back on.
So true.
Where are we living in Baghdad? Like, what is this? What is this?
So true. And I fear that so many of our young people, because I was that young person like you, I grew up in Detroit. Like, I understand it. I overstand it, that you grow up normalizing that, and you wake up and you're just, it desensitizes you, you know, like that vulnerability you talk about. That's why it's so hard for most of us to show it.
It steals your childhood. It steals your innocence, because you have to be, you have to be an adult very early. And process a very adult world. It robs you of your innocence. And that's what I see in a lot of these kids, because they don't get to have innocence. Like, you know, we just didn't have to go outside or whatever, keep them away. But see, with this thing right here, these things right here is getting harder and harder to do. And so they're losing their innocence at such a young age. And that's what I see when I look at them. They look at you.
Yeah, they already hardened.
They hard, and they like,
yeah,
what you got? You can't do nothing to me that ain't already been done. That's how they walking around. And it hurts me, because kids should just be kids.